pray with me. Spirit of wisdom, may only truth be spoken, may only truth be heard, we ask. Amen. As we draw closer to Good Friday and we hear the text today, it raises the subject of this mystery we call evil. Often we don't take evil seriously, and that's probably a good thing because it means that we don't see the face of evil as much as many people in our world do. I remember when I was a kid, there was a comedian I used to get a kick out of, Flip Wilson. And his tagline was, "The devil made me do it." And my buddies and I would play pranks on each other, and one said, "Why'd you do that?" And I said, "The devil made me do it." And I tried that with my parents once, but it didn't work so well. Of course, God and the devil are not people or characters, they are powers. Competing powers with competing values. The Apostle Paul wrote a very profound verse. He said, "We wrestle not against flesh and blood." Our problem is not other people per se. Trump isn't the problem. It's the powers of greed and domination that put him in the presidency that are the problem. It's the powers and principles that support him as he's there that's the problem. Paul wrote, "Our fight is not with flesh and blood, it's with principalities and powers in high places." Kind of what Star Wars calls the dark side. The players always change in this struggle, but the struggle continues on. This battle between competition and cooperation, between greed and sharing, between inclusion and hate, between all of God's children being blessed and having what they need, versus the favored few. This is the drama of history. People are not evil, but we can be taken over by evil. And what's even more troubling is that we can support evil and not even know it. All it takes is indifference to the plight of others. I mean, slavery was viewed for hundreds of years by white Christians as the cost of doing business. And they were told by the experts of their day, the educated experts, that the slaves were subhuman, so we didn't need to care about them. And we swallowed that. It's so sobering to realize the things we swallowed back then, and then we get to wondering, what are we swallowing today? Wow. Men didn't see any problem with women not being legal people. They didn't see any problem with women not having the vote. In fact, if you read the discussions going on in Canada back in the 1920s, men thought they were doing humanity and women a service by not allowing them to assume positions that all the experts said were beyond women's fragile natures to endure. But Jesus wept when he sees this. Our government and churches thought it was a noble thing to rescue Indian children from their primitive superstitions. Let's make them like us, we thought. But when we think people are lesser than us, it always leads to abuse. And the government didn't mind because their agenda was to get the Indians to disappear in their treaties with them. Government regulations set up the residential school system expressly for this purpose, and this is what was written in the act, to kill the Indian in there. But Jesus wept. It's quite easy to think people are less than us when we perceive them to be different than us. And when we think they're less than us, we don't think they deserve what we have. This world has been observing the 25th anniversary of the Rwandan genocide. The Hutus and the Tutsis lived together in peace for over 100 years. But then the Tutsis took over, and when a plane was shot down that they thought was shot down by the Hutus, they started to rise up and seed the story. Seed the story that the Tutsis were cockroaches. The very word they used. Cockroaches that needed to be exterminated. And somehow, like we saw in Europe, with the Serbian genocide, somehow what we saw was people who had lived together in harmony and intermarried for years. Within 3 months, more than 1 million people were killed. It's shocking how when we move to demonizing people and putting people down and thinking them of less than, how fast that can go with such violence. And of course, Jesus wept. I was out speaking with some youth at Youth Forum on the weekend. Great time out there. Such a great program. There's 60 youth there and some great workshop leaders. Well, the best, really. Sue was out there talking with them. But I got to talk to them Saturday morning. And I said, there's this battle. There's a fundamental battle in the universe between how we interpret evolution. And it all comes down to this. We know that life has evolved to the survival of the fittest, but what makes something or someone the fittest? The predominant culture in our world today says the fittest is those ones who are able to dominate the others. Domination is what I was taught growing up was the fittest, the strongest, if you can dominate. And that's the excuse always given for the few to lord it over the rest of us. Years ago, the kings and queens said, God made us kings and queens so we can tell you what to do. We own you. Today, the business class, they say the same thing. Hey, if we can make it, if we can do it, we deserve it. If you go to business school today, they talk about greed. And they talk about the perfection of the market like they're talking about God. They worship it. They adore it. You read their writings. They say, oh, the market is the only way to truth. The market is what solves our problems. The market will lead us where we need to go. Any interference with the market is terrible. Domination. But thank God, this universe is not built on domination. Thank God evolution doesn't work because of domination. And it took a mathematician to prove that. A guy by the name of
John Nash. John Nash,
thank you. John Nash was a mathematician. He was in a bar with his buddies. And there were 3 women there, and they were saying, we'd like to dance with you. One of the women was just spectacular in how she looked and how she dressed. And his buddy said, I'm going to ask her to dance with me. John Nash said, she's not going to dance with you. He says, well, we'll see about that. He asked her to dance. She says, no. He came back, his tail between his legs. He says, why? Nash said, because they came as a group. They are friends. If she'd have danced with you, she would have been telling her girlfriends, I don't care about you, okay? He's come to me, I'm going to dance with him. She wouldn't do that. He said, I'll get her to dance with you, but we're going to do it through cooperation. So what he did is he went and asked one of the other gals to dance. His third friend asked the other gal, and they agreed, and then that fellow went, and the first one agreed to dance with him. She'd dance as long as her 2 friends were taken care of, right? And he proved mathematically that cooperation is a simpler, more elegant solution than competition. But that's not what you're going to hear in the marketplace. Competition brings out the best. How many times have you heard that? Competition is the way. But no. The universe is built on cooperation. And I was saying to the youth, what is it you're worried about? And they says, well, we hate the fact that there's people in Canada that still reject, and churches still reject people for loving people who are of the same sex and that kind of thing. And in countries of the world, this is what our youth are thinking about. There's a country in the world that's made it illegal and going to stone people for doing it. And I said, see, why do people feel they have the right to hurt others? It's because they think the strongest has the right. That's the way empires think. The strongest has the right, but that's not the way of Jesus. Jesus, it's cooperation. And they said the planet. They said, global warming and all the things happening on the planet. And I said, yes, what gives those corporations the right? Why do we, through our politicians, give them the right? But you see, the empire, which we have to live with, we're so limited on things we can do. We can't just set our tax rates as if the United States doesn't exist. And the American empire now is taken over by greed and domination. The people that the things that the average Americans want today, they cannot get. Because the politicians do not have to be responsive to the actual people. They're responsive to the people who pay for their elections. And it's a terrible situation we find ourselves in. We don't have to have poverty in the world. I grew up thinking that there had to be poverty because there wasn't enough money to go around. There's lots of money to go around, but it's all in the hands of a few, and it's not shared properly. I learned last week that Amazon made $10 billion last year. Good for them. Do you know how much they paid in federal taxes last year? Nothing. Friends, when we get to the point where that's the way we function, we are in a downdraft and domination is taking over. Do you know back in the 50s in Canada, the people paid the same amount in taxes as the corporations? Do you know today we're paying 3.5 times the taxes of the corporations? It's so wrong. And yet we all go on like it's normal and it's all right. And we're told lies, the same lies that Rome told, we're still being told. What are the lies we're told? And do you know where we get the experts who tell us this? After the Second World War, some of the richest people in different countries of the world got together and they pooled the money. And you know what they did? They set up think tanks. They put their economists in, they put their scientists in, and so now every time there's a news article and they want to go to get the other side from a think tank, it's from this group that just makes up lies and says it's their studied, serious opinion. In fact, the Koch brothers are known for that. They supply money to these think tanks, including in Canada. So what are the lies we're told? Oh, if we give the wealthy money, they'll create the jobs. It's a lie. I remember Jim Flaherty. He was the finance minister under Harper. He was an honest guy, and I can't believe what came out of his mouth at a news conference. They had just passed the largest tax cut in the history of Canada. And he said, corporations, we've given you all this money and you're not creating jobs. What a moment of clarity. What's the other big lie we're told? The other big lie is we can't afford to raise the minimum wage because if we do, companies will go out of business. Well, they raised the minimum wage to $14 an hour, and lo and behold, overall, no jobs were lost, and in fact, extra jobs were created. But the current government's telling us the same old lie, and they won't let it go to $15. These are the lies, and we need to be aware. We can't be sucked in. We need to know there's a better way. We know that Jesus weeps when this kind of stuff is going on. And so, the good news is that goodness is stronger than evil. The good news is that Rome couldn't silence Jesus. The good news is we've come a long way in 2,000 years. And I told the kids, I said, listen, I said, you've got the whole universe behind you. You can know that cooperation will get you through in your life and will get this world forward. When we live in kindness, respect, and fairness, no matter what comes our way, even across, we can't lose for women. Because that is the God principle we worship and serve and celebrate. Cooperation, love wins in the end. And so we give thanks and we take heart. And we're not discouraged by the problems. Just roll up our sleeves and we make up our minds in our lives every day and the choices we make. Let's make choices that help others. Let's make choices that are fair to us and to others. Let's not swallow the Kool-Aid. Let's stand for a world where everybody is taken care of. Thanks be to God.